Hi, my name is Cindy Rang with the Fabric Patch in Ephrata, Washington, and today we're going to talk about bags. So I'm going to show you how to make these cute little bags. It is just a vinyl see-through zippered pouch with a tiny little box bottom. What's kind of fun is you could even put in some of the chalkboard fabric if you like the idea of that. You could put in some leftover faux leather, or maybe if you have some cork or any of that kind of stuff. They're really fun to personalize, make sort of special, and really easy with just a few pieces of fabric. The big thing that I want to talk about tonight is the vinyl. Some people are a little bit nervous about sewing on it, so I want to show you some of the tricks for using it and the two products that I would recommend, and tell you the secret about what you should never, ever do when you're sewing with the vinyl. This is really the one that we're making, and if you feel like you really need written directions, this is a fantastic pattern, written really well. I'm just going to show you kind of a very fast, down and dirty, no pattern method that we're going to go to, and that way you can just cut with your, cut stuff out of your stash, and we can just get that whipped up tonight. This one uses the see-through vinyl, which is really nice. It's kind of all the rage right now. This one is the stadium bag. If you really do want to take a bag with you into the games, and you know everybody has those see-through backpacks, this is just a really nice thing that you can make using just a little bit of fabric and this see-through vinyl. And then there's also the Hello pouches. I've made a couple of these. I couldn't find a sample to bring back here. I think we gift them a bunch. Once you kind of have the basic construction, you could see how you can make this multiple different sizes, super, super fast, just a little bit of quilted fabric, the vinyl, and a zipper. And then we have a few other kind of just fast inspirational bags that are kind of fun. This one is not super fast. It's just that it's beautiful. It's one of our all-time favorites. It's called the Kaleidoscope bag. The open wide is a very fast, really nice bag. The pattern is in multiple sizes depending upon what you'd like to carry. This is the medium sized. Another really fast one is the Sweet Jane. We have made this 100 times. You can do all of the little strip pieces if you'd like, but you can also change this out for any number of fun, exciting fabrics if you just want to do something a little bit different there. Maybe do some hand embroidery, machine embroidery, again, some of the pleather, the cork, the textured fabric, anything that you'd like, just to make that one kind of a little bit unique. This one is called Bridget's Baguettes, another really pretty fast and kind of a fun one to do. All it really is just one little piece, your zipper, your vinyl, and then you can see that your backing actually comes across to become your binding. Super, super fast, kind of a fun one to make, and it also is in 3 different sizes in the pattern. All right, so let's go ahead and let me show you one that's super, super fast, and the one that we're going to make together. Okay, so this is the vinyl that we're going to sew. I don't know if you can see this very well. It might be easier to see it this way. It might be the easiest to see it this way because it has some paper on it. That's kind of, I wouldn't say stuck to it, but that's almost like freezer paper. So this is the vinyl that we use in our bags that you can go ahead and throw it in the washer. You can even throw it in the dryer. It's going to wear extremely well. It's not going to rip when you sew it. So there's a couple of tricks to it, which I'm going to get to, but the thing that you never, ever, ever want to do is, number one, touch it with an iron. Doesn't like an iron. If something happens and it has some sort of a funny fold to it that you don't like, you could throw it in the dryer for a little bit and then just lay it flat and you're okay, but don't touch it with an iron. The other thing that you don't want to do is don't make the mistake of thinking that shower curtain vinyl is the same thing. It is not. It not only is not the same thing, you're not saving any money. So what this is this product is from By Annie's. You know, she's kind of the bag making people. This is a 16 gauge vinyl. So it is pretty sturdy, pretty thick, and it comes with this paper that you kind of leave on it. I made that look like it was sticky, but it's not. It's just like clinged to it basically. And what happens is this helps you to see when you lay it out on your cutting mat, this helps you with your ruler to see so that you can cut it the exact size you want. For our project, we want it to be 5 inches by 10 inches. So you're able to see that. Otherwise, if you get the stuff off of the bolt, you can see that when I put this down on my cutting mat and put my ruler on top of that, it's going to be kind of hard to see. So that's part of what makes this one kind of nice. Also, I don't think there's any other 16 gauge vinyl that you can get. This roll, it's fairly substantial. I think there's 1.5 yards of it for $10. So it is pretty reasonable. This stuff is 12 gauge. So 12 gauge, it doesn't come with a paper, but it's not as if you couldn't just take typing paper, put underneath, and then you really would be able to see what you were doing. And same thing with sewing, which we'll talk about in a minute. This is about $7 a yard, so it's just about the same price. This is just a little bit less, and this one is 12 gauge. Still pretty hefty. It's going to last really well. It's going to work great. A shower curtain is 3 gauge, 5 gauge, or at the very, very most, for a very expensive one, 8 gauge. So it's not the same thing at all. It's not going to last after you've sewn it. So those are the two things. Number one, don't touch it with an iron. Number two, don't buy an inexpensive piece of plastic. All right, so this happens to be the 12 gauge. So this is really nice. I tend to use this a lot. I've really loved this. This is just a fairly new product, and so I haven't used it as much, but it's super, super nice. I have to say, coming with that paper has made it really nice. Let's talk about what we need for our project. What we need is basically 3 10 by 10 inch squares to kind of start out with. So what I have is my 10 by 10. So just some random leftover pieces from a layer cake that I didn't use the whole thing of, or you can cut something out of your stash. I have one piece plus a 10 by 10 fusible interfacing. This can be anything that you have that's laying around. This one happens to be the 911 fusible. It's the stuff that I usually use on t-shirt quilts. So just something to give it just that little bit of stiffness, because I'm not going to do any quilting and I want my bag to have some body to it. So I have a 10-inch piece with a piece of interfacing. I have a second 10-inch piece with a piece of interfacing. If you have a third 10-inch square that you can cut into pieces, that's fine. Or if you have some other stash pieces, all you really need is 3 strips that are going to be 2 inches by 10 inches. And then your vinyl that you're going to cut is, let me put it underneath that paper so you can see it, is 5 inches by 10 inches. And 3 more pieces of your fusible interfacing that are 2 inches by 10 inches for those strips. Again, just that idea of giving a bag body so that it'll stand up on its own. And then finally, you'll need a zipper. You really only need 10 inches, but we always start with those 14-inch Atkinson zippers. All right, I'm going to start by fusing my interfacing to the wrong sides of all of my pieces. Okay, one thing to mention is that when you are pressing your fusible interfacing to the wrong side of your fabric, it's generally best to have your fabric up, because when you put all of that heat on this, it can kind of buckle it just a little bit. So generally it's nicer to go ahead and fuse it down on the cotton side of your fabric. All right, once you've done all of that, all of these have the fusible interfacing on the back of them just to make them a little bit stiffer. And now it's time to go ahead and plan your bag. So I know that on the front of my bag, I'm going to have a stripe here. I'm going to have this lime stripe. Again, this could be something that has some hand embroidery on it, some machine embroidery. It can be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't make any difference. And then I'm going to have my vinyl, and then we're going to have the blue, and then my zipper will go here. For this, which you have to decide which one do you want to see through the bag and which one do you want on the back. I kind of feel like I want to see this, and I'm going to have this on the back. So this is what my bag is going to look like. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sew these 2 strips together. So on my vinyl and then sew this to my vinyl. So let me mention one other thing about the vinyl. Sometimes what happens when you go to your sewing machine, you're going to feel like it sticks just a little bit. There's two things that you can do. One is you can use what's called the Teflon foot, or Pfaff calls it a non-stick foot. The Teflon foot is different from the plastic foot, so don't think that a plastic foot is not going to be sticky. So your other option, if you don't have a Teflon or a non-stick foot, is to just leave it on paper. And so what will happen is I'm going to go over to the sewing machine, and having it run on the bottom with your feed dogs, you'll feel that it's a little bit grippy. So I actually would have it up. And then you can put just a regular piece of paper, or better yet, if you happen to have just some tissue paper, just leave that on the top as you sew. I'll show you in just a second. And then just go ahead and rip that paper off. And that way your plastic stays in there, nothing is gripping and dragging, and then you'll just rip your paper off and all will be well. This is just regular tissue paper. It's just going to tear a little bit easier. If you don't have tissue when you order something from Tracy, I imagine you'll get some. And then all you have to do, you don't have to save the tissue. Just, it'll rip right out of there. All right. And then resist the temptation to press this. Do not press it. You can, if you feel like you can, once you finger pressed it, it's going to stay there. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to go ahead and put my top piece on. And rather than sewing this underneath the machine and having this run on my feed dogs, I'm just going to go ahead and put this on the top. And sew this edge. Okay. And then the other thing that I'm going to mention is that if you feel like, oh, that came up way easier. I just made it look harder before. It might be a little harder to see because it's so see-through, but you can definitely feel it. So it's pretty easy. And there you go. That's totally no big deal. You're just going to finger press this. Do not feel like, oh, I think I can get my iron right up in there and get that a little bit pressed. Just don't. You're going to go ahead and sew this seam anyway. It's going to lay perfectly flat. You can, if you want to come along and top stitch right there and stitch that down and top stitch right here, you can, but I'm not going to do that because I'm going to show you at the end what it looks like, and it looks just fine not doing that. All right, I'm going to set this one aside, and now I'm going to come over to this one, and it's time to go ahead and put our zipper on. I'm going to lay my zipper down, right sides together. And I'm going to go ahead and, I don't have to use a zipper foot for this. I just have to stay within my 3/8 inch seam allowance. So I'm just still going to continue to do everything with my 1/4 inch seam allowance right along there. All right. And then I'm going to open this up. I'm going to give this a little bit of a press, and then I'm going to top stitch just to give it a nice finished edge. All right, so that's been sewn on. Then, now in most bags, what would happen is you would do the exact same thing on the other side, right? You would go ahead and do the outside of your bag, and then you would do the lining. Obviously, there's no lining with this because the whole idea is that it is see-through. We're going to go ahead and sew, and then we're going to flip it open, and then we're going to do our top stitch. Okay, so you can see we pressed this open and we did our little top stitching here. If you are somebody that wanted zipper tabs, you can see we did not add it to this just because, again, this is just a real down and dirty, super fast, super cute 15-minute bag. You could certainly add tabs if you want to. I did not add tabs to this one. So make sure that your zipper pull is in the center or within your bag, and then we're going to go ahead and flip this over, and we're going to go ahead and sew all the way around, and then we'll come back and then we're going to go ahead and cut for our box bottom. So it'll look like this. Again, if you've added your tissue paper while you were sewing here, go ahead and rip your tissue paper off. Now is probably also the time to go ahead and trim up some of those weird wayward threads if you have any of those. You can also see that I sort of backstitched quite a bit up here at the zipper. You can just cut that right off. You're gonna do the same thing over here, just cut that right off. If one size was bigger than the other, you can trim that off down at the bottom, no problem there. And so now we're going to make our box bottom. All you need is a ruler and a friction marker, and I'm going to do a 1-inch box bottom. You can do anything you want to with box bottoms. The rule of thumb is that if you do a 1-inch box, you'll have a 2-inch opening, or 2-inch bottom. If you do a 1/2-inch box, you'll have a 1-inch. 1.5, it'll be 3 inches. So just decide the depth of the bag that you'd like. I am going to make mine 1 inch. So I'm lining up my ruler on my seam allowance, not on my edge pieces, which could be all sorts of places. So on my seam allowance here and here, I'm lining that up. I'm going to take my friction marker. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Line up my 1 inch, my friction marker, and then I'm going to take some scissors and I'm going to cut this box out. Okay, once I've done that, I'm just going to, you've probably done box bottoms before. I'm just going to open this thing up, nestle that seam, and sew that straight edge 1/4 inch all the way across. And then we'll be right back. Okay, so then go ahead and trim off any extra threads. There's going to be a bunch of them, but there's your box bottom. That's what it looks like. We have left our zipper halfway open, so we're going to go ahead and turn our bag right side out. Okay, so I've turned it right side out. If you need to, if you have a purple thing, just to go ahead and poke out your corners, but the corners go pretty easily and you can see the bottom there. And then there is your cute little bag. Now, I'll tell you, here's the thing. This is just kind of fun for carrying different projects. If you have different stitchery things that you're doing, all of these bags are made like that. I've got all kinds of random threads and pieces that are in all of these. It works out perfect. But the thing to know is that the inside is unfinished. And that's okay with me because of what I'm putting in here. So, and this is just super, super fast, truly a 10 to 15 minute project. But if you like the idea of having a finished lining and you don't want to see this seam here, that's what this pattern is. This pattern, what it's doing is it has the lining on both sides. So you have 2 pieces of fabric there, 2 pieces of fabric there, 2 pieces of fabric there, rather than just our one with the interfacing. One last tip that I should have mentioned early on. Once you have sewn through this vinyl, it's a permanent hole. It's plastic. So once you've put that hole through there, you can rip it out. But whatever you sew over the top, we're going to see the little dit, 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 dit. So just important to know, make a decision and stick with it and life will be good. Hope you like the idea of a fast bag, or still fast, but a little bit fancier, or whatever could be inspirational. But bags are a really fun, quick gift to make and a really fun way to go ahead and use up some of that leftover fabric. And do not be afraid of vinyl. Super great to use, really easy, and it's really fun to be able to see what's inside your bag.
Thank you for watching our video. We invite you to leave a comment, hit the like button, or better yet, subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. You can also visit our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest pages, or find all of those things and our online store at fabricpatch.net.